Otherwise,
I'm not quite
I
sure
think
why,
otherwise.
but
On the wrong side of it?
I don't know. No, I mean, I'm happy that we're here. It's fine. I'm just saying. We're ever so slightly.
Should be on the right hand.
Usually there's the
Vice President should be at the right hand.
Yeah,
Should be right hand.
Yes. Usually they group us, but, you know, like newest versus oldest. I'd like to start by saying that our hearts go out to the family of the young man who was found deceased south of Winnetka earlier today. It's just unimaginable. We're going to move on to the announcements. For those watching tonight's meeting by Diligent Community, the meeting is available live stream on the Diligent Community platform. Public comment is accepted in person. A link to the video will be posted to the Diligent Community website immediately following this evening's meeting. To improve the sound while listening to the meeting, please turn up the volume on your computer and turn up the volume on the Diligent Community site. The meeting packet for tonight's meeting is located on the Diligent Community site. We're good? For those attending tonight's meeting, bathrooms are located in the foyer through the double doors. The emergency exits are in the back of the room or through the double doors and out the administrative exit. If you haven't already, please sign the white attendance sheet at the table in the back of the meeting room. To improve the quality of the sound, there is a boom microphone directed towards the commissioners. The microphone will likely pick up any additional audience noise and sidebar conversations. If you are struggling to hear, we would ask you to just move forward to the front. I'm going to repeat the comments that I borrowed from the village. This is not a sporting event. There will be no clapping or booing. We're a community coming together to discuss difficult issues in a civil and respectful fashion. This is a business meeting. The board asks for your cooperation to maintain decorum. Please be considerate and refrain from interrupting board members and other speakers. For visitors' comments and board members' comments tonight, we will try hard for a 3-minute limit, which should be fair to all parties. There's going to be a timer up on the screen, and at 30 seconds, it will turn from green to red when there's 30 seconds left, and then at 10 seconds, the entire timer fills the screen for 10 seconds. Please don't be alarmed. We're not hard and fast on the 3 minutes. We're not cutting anyone off. But these meetings have run long, and out of respect for everyone's time, we'd like to keep them moving. Calling to order the August 17th, 2023 meeting, committee and regular board meeting. Please may I have a roll call?
Commissioner Hemmings?
Here.
Commissioner James?
Here.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Here.
Commissioner Lesson?
Here.
Commissioner Kodo?
Yeah, here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? Moving on to number 3, financials.
Thank you, Commissioner Goodall. The Winnetka Park District's year-to-date financial performance through July has delivered a positive operating surplus. Interest income and program fees are exceeding expectations, largely offsetting the expected loss of revenue from golf operations. The net operating income for our operating funds is $2,846,044, well above year-to-date budget. Our year-to-date operating expenses, operating capitals, and especially major capitals are currently well below what's budgeted. The combination of these results yields in a $4,875,604 operating surplus. The vast majority of that is due to lack of major capital spending, since Elder Centennial was budgeted for this year, and they've yet to break ground on those projects. As mentioned in the last meeting, and as a reminder, the second installment of property tax revenues from 2022 to be collected in 2023 are being delayed at the county level. We expect to receive those in December of this year. So it will not roll over into next year as happens with this year. And currently our operating expenses are all tracking below budget through July. So overall, our financials are in good condition.
Great, thank you very much. May I have a motion to approve the July 2023 financials?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I'd just like to make a comment about the transition to the Tyler summaries that we have. I feel that it's been helpful to have consistent reporting in a way that is easier for Jim to administer, and that the numbers, then tie back to the financials. So I think it's been a benefit, and I've also found the memo helpful. I don't know if anyone else has any comments, but I wanted to at least, give my feedback in an open session around that, because I think it's been very helpful.
I think the improvements are much more professional, and I personally appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. Are we ready for a roll call vote? Denise?
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Vouchers, item number 4. Jim?
Thank you, Commissioner Hodo. For this meeting, we are proposing a approval of vouchers totaling $1,129,635.08. One of the largest portions there is major capital projects. We had 2 large stormwater projects, payments made to the Village of Winnetka totaling that $436,000. That was expected. It's nothing that's not budgeted for. The rest of the expenses are all in line with what we expected. Payroll, recreation, we will have camp expenses in July from the June and July camp programs, which were very successful, by the way. And Kyle can touch on those in more detail later if he wishes. But that's the summary of the vouchers.
Great. May I have a motion to approve the vouchers for $1,129,635.08 as presented?
So moved. Second.
Hemmings and Rapp. May I have any discussion? Excellent. Denise, roll call.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Excellent. Bond update, Jim?
Thank you. July 28th of 2023 marked the 3-year anniversary of the issuance of the 2020 alternate revenue bonds. The total net proceeds when first issued was $9,050,000. To date, 47.3% of those proceeds have been spent, or specifically $4,283,121 of the $9,050,000 has been spent. The contract required that 85% of the proceeds be spent within the first 3 years. The spending threshold is not met. Therefore, the remaining proceeds are now yield restricted, meaning we cannot earn interest above the 1.973 rate that we are paying for those funds. The good news is that per the contract, those proceeds may be used as to quote, to provide for the payment of land condemned or purchased for parks, for the building, maintaining, improving, and protecting of the same, and the existing land and facilities of the district, including bluff improvements and shoreline stabilization under the Winnetka Waterfront 23 plan, and for the payment of the expense incident thereto. According to an opinion provided by Chapman Cutler, the bond proceeds may be used for capital projects other than bluff restoration, lakefront improvements. The arbitrage rate is standing as of July 28th, 2023. We were well below the threshold for having to repay anything to the IRS. As of July 28th, we were cumulatively $164,314.41 below the threshold, which is a good position in which to be. So, knowing that we still have about $4,766,879 left, There are some potential uses that we discussed internally here. Opportunities that would not prevent, but that's what we're looking for, better word. An opportunity that allows us to use this capital funding rather than operating money for capital improvements. The two most notable that come to mind would be the reimbursements of the Park District for the $2.3 million spent on the golf course. A reimbursement for operating funds for the Nicorn Playground, roughly $300,000. Future projected expenses are replacement of the turf field at $1.3 million anticipated. Refurbish replacement of the Hap Road Playground, a little over $100,000. And then projected irrigation expenses at Nicorn Park and Little Duke Field of roughly $75,000 each. So there are opportunities for us to take some pressure off of the reserves, save those reserves for other future expenses if we use this bond money for these projects not related to the lakefront.
I had two questions about those. It
Yes.
looks like we are eating into this surplus by about, as rates continue to rise, it'll increase, obviously.
Yes.
By about $3,000 or $4,000 a year, which is not a massive differential.
Correct.
So that we can continue to hold this, although it would prove it if we have turf need, which has been outstanding for a number of years. Okay. And then the second question is, if we need to borrow back reserves from some of the other operating funds, we can do it as we did for the.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
One other point I'd like to touch on for the bond is, on the second slide, there's a reference to a computation date credit, and some folks may not understand what that is. It's essentially, it's a small allowance from the IRS for inflationary pressure. It helps reduce arbitrage rebate liabilities for years in which there are bond proceeds outstanding. The credit amount is adjusted by the IRS each year for inflation, and it gets future value to each calculation date. So, in July 20th, 2024, you're going to see another computation date credit to the remaining.
Do you have any idea what that credit stands at in terms of a rate?
In terms of a rate, no,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, I was just curious.
it's a little over $1,000. It's like between $1,000 and $2,000 every year. It's not a lot, but
Yeah,
it
it's
helps.
something.
Right.
All right, so this doesn't require any action?
No.
This is for further consideration in the future?
Right, this is for the board to deliberate. And
Excellent.
I'll make some steered policy decisions toward where to best use the resources.
Where are the bond proceeds invested right now?
You, with what company, which bank, or?
What type of vehicle, like what type of investment is
It's
it?
currently in a money market.
Okay,
So money market rates are pretty good right now, so we've left them there for greater liquidity. We were expecting Elder Centennial to be going strong at this point, as well as the
No, I
golf course.
understand.
So we try to keep them as liquid as possible.
well, like you said, it's gonna be age, it's rate restricted now, or yield
Correct.
restricted now. So you might eat up the 164,000 pretty fast at the rates that we're seeing now.
Right, you know, we're at 1.973, but the money market rates right now are 4.99 to 5%. So that buffer is going to wither pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Which is why we're recommending using some of these proceeds for some of these other capital projects identified here.
We should get a report on that, like every month. It's gonna change.
I can do that. If
Yeah.
the board wishes, I can make a report on that every month.
Great.
Can you project the utilization of these funds and the interest earned so that we can see cash flow projection of the interest earned? So we have a ballpark estimate of where we might eclipse that threshold?
I can absolutely project the interest earned. In terms of utilization, it depends on the projects that the money is.
Yeah, I understand, but we, you know,
There's a break.
we could have a pretty good handle on, and we're gonna pay, we could immediately repay some of the golf course stuff.
Right.
The turf fields would be sometime in the future, so between the
I can do-
post, I'm guessing you could probably put together a ballpark, and then we could make refinements to it, so we at least have a more accurate projection.
Absolutely, I can do a interest projection for the next meeting.
Okay.
Great. And item 5.2, also review.
I promise I'm not the one speaking for that. This is similar to something we did at this time last year. Ordinance 597 is an annual payment of taxes collected to pay for debt service on some of our earlier bonds. The way the contract is written, if we have the resources to pay the debt service, we are required to do so without taxing our residents. And since we do have the resources available, we're going to file this payment with the county so that we do not collect taxes for this. So we are in compliance with the contract as it's written. So I respectfully ask the board to approve this ordinance request.
May I have a motion to approve ordinance number 597, abating the tax hereto levied for the year 2022 to pay the principal and interest on $9,050,000 general obligation park bonds, Series 2020 of the Winnetka Park District?
So moved.
Second.
Excellent. Any discussion? Denise? roll call.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Soto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay, remarks from visitors. This is your opportunity to address the board on any issue. When called upon, come to the center position in front of the commissioners and stand at the podium. Speak loudly or into the microphone. Please state your name for the record and speak directly to the board. And we're going to endeavor to keep all comments, both the boards and the visitors, right around 3 minutes. Not a question and answer forum, so please don't expect a response or an answer from the park board this evening, although we do generally address a lot of the issues as we work through the agenda. If you prefer to share your comments in writing, you may use the comment cards, which are available in your sign-in sheets. Any park district staff will accept your cards to be shared with the board. Who would like to come forward first? Come on up, Chris.
Please start the timer after I say good luck to John Peterson. He's professional and courteous, and I appreciate your just working with you. You're a very nice person. My first comment is about the potential conveyance of a portion of Crow Island Woods to District 36 for no consideration. There are 2 parcels under consideration. One is 26,000 square feet, one is 8,000 square feet. And I believe that either one of these conveyances would violate the Illinois Park District Code. It's 70 ILCS 1205-10-7D5, which provides that if a real estate may be conveyed to a school district, if the Park District Board approves the sale by a 4/5 vote, and the Park District is situated wholly within the corporate limits of the school district, or if there are 3 appraisals, and the conveyances for that average, which I read in your book. The Park District has failed to meet these requirements. It didn't get any appraisals, and the Park District encompasses property in Glencoe and Northfield, which clearly the Winnetka School District does not. So I'll give you this, but that's the law. I'm also concerned about a potential conflict of interest on the part of one of the commissioners, which I'll give to you in my written comments. And also, I feel the liability issue as an excuse for making a gift of the land to the District 36 is just made up because the property is fully insured. And then secondly, I would urge you to stop getting rid of parkland. It's not in the community's interest, it's destructive. I looked at the tree demolition permit today for 205 Sheridan. Over 300 trees would be chopped down. Maybe 16 of them are in poor condition. They're mainly in excellent, fair, and largely good condition. And I just think it's a travesty.
you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Mary?
Good evening. I'm kind of on the same subject. I thought I might be the only one talking on this subject tonight. But it seems that the mission statement of the Winnetka Park District is spoken from this podium on a regular basis. The Winnetka Park District mission statement is to provide leisure opportunities while projecting assets, natural resources, and open space to benefit present and future generations. This is a very simple, straightforward mission for those who are elected to serve on the Winnetka Park District Board of Commissioners. There is a concern regarding the legal counsel for gifting the piece of land at Crow Island Woods that has supported the playground at Crow Island School since it was licensed in 1954 to District 36. It seems that it is not necessary to change. Nothing changes for District 36, either owning or leasing this piece of property. Kids will still have a ton of fun when playing at this playground. A simple solution is to continue being stewards of this land, make sure that the land use agreement between District 36 indemnifies the Winnetka Park District. District 36 will enjoy the playground as it always has. Winnetka Park District fulfills their mission to protect open space. And you and future boards are in control of keeping the open space open. All 7 of you are the elected body in Winnetka who have the passion for open space and good recreational programming. If you do not share this passion, then you are not serving the right constituents. Commissioners, protection of open space is your mission. Preservation of open space is not the mission of District 36, nor of the Village of Winnetka, nor of the Winnetka Public Library. District 36 has good intentions to keep your open space, but open space is not a top priority on their list of mandates. Education of your children is. The gift of this land is opening Pandora's box. Over 120 years, many very smart deals have occurred between the 3 taxing bodies in this community. You could be setting a precedent that is a problem in the future. Because of this transaction, it is possible that other playgrounds may be in jeopardy. Please think long and hard about this transaction. Your newly hired attorney will be dealing with not with one transaction now, but he may have find other problems in the future that need to be solved. Have District 36 indemnify Winnetka Park District and have a safety check on the District 36 playground equipment reviewed and checked by Winnetka Park District's playground expert on a regular basis of your choice. To be clear, the contract to transfer land from Crow Island Woods to District 36 in exchange for programming space at the proposed new gymnasium facility is certainly land that the board should exchange, as it benefits District 36 and the Winnetka Park District. The giving of the existing Winnetka Park District playground land to District 36 sparks a controversial trade. Not doing this exchange will not hinder the use of the playground as it existed since 1954, 70 years of cooperation. Please have clear thoughts as you think through giving away open land. There is no reason to continue spending taxpayers' money on legal fees. Nothing is changing for the users of the first grade playground. There have been many hours of enjoyment on this playground, and this enjoyment will continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Susie?
Susie Schreiber, Winnetka Park District resident. I had not planned to speak tonight, but I fully and completely concur with the 2 previous speakers. And I would remind you that when we acquired Nick Corwin Park from the Winnetka School District, we purchased it at full market value, and the question of whether we should be doing that or not was put up to the voters, and the voters approved of it, even though it's our own park, our own tax-paying pockets from which the money is coming. But there is a clear precedent with voter approval of the standards that we followed when we acquired Nick Corwin Park. Please keep that in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. I think Kit.
Kim Marsh, 360 Forest. I'm going to talk on a different topic. I happened to be at the beach, the dog beach, on July 4th, and observed and witnessed the drowning of my neighbor Luke. And it brought to my mind comments that have been made in the past about sightlines and about if we build big rock walls like we have at Lloyd, there is no visibility out to the buoy level where this tragic accident happened. And standing on the beach watching 50 other people dialing 911 was a very distressing situation, but everybody saw what was happening. And, you know, 2 people I was standing with dove in the water and went out to help. A guy dove off a boat to help. There was plenty of visibility. And I'm just concerned about the plan for Elder and how the big walls are going to apparently be part of that plan. And I think some consideration needs to be given to whether those could be either scaled back or reconfigured in such a way to allow for sightlines out to the water. It's just, you know, we don't need any more tragedies. Had enough this summer, so, thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Okay. We'll move to item number 7, which is approval of the minutes. We have a consent agenda, but I think we're removing one item.
We're transitioning one, so if I could pass this to the commissioners. Pass this down. So on page 4 of 7 of the open meeting minutes, there's a motion made to authorize staff to create an agreement for the conveyance of approximately 26,000 square foot parcel of Crow Island Woods with a reversionary clause for the playground security enhancements. And I went back and listened to the actual motion itself. So the information in yellow is the fact-based motion that was made that evening. So the proposal is to lift and shift the information in yellow, which just essentially eliminates the clause regarding the reversionary clause for the playground security enhancements and accurately reflects the motion that was made. So it's not changing the meaning of the motion from a general perspective, but it's more of a fact-based representation of the motion.
So we are incorporating this change.
Correct.
May I have a motion to approve the change to the item 7.1, the committee and regular meeting minutes of July 20th, 23, as amended in this document?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Excellent. And then may I have a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of July 20th, 2023 as presented? No second? Discussion?
Yes, I have one suggestion, if we might take that under advisement if we go into closed session this evening.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so we will table that?
Motion to table if that's
Would we act upon that coming out of closed session?
It's
No.
currently not on the agenda, but can that be added?
It is on the agenda.
It is on the
Well, I
agenda.
meant for coming out of closed session.
As long as, I mean, it's on the agenda, so we can act on it.
Okay.
As we come out of close.
Yeah.
Okay. There
Okay,
you go.
let's,
It's just a point of clarification.
excellent. Okay, thank you. So we'll revisit that after close.
Thank you.
Okay. Communications.
There have been absolutely none. Just kidding. So the packet has, the better part of 50 pages of communications from the Record or from the Tribune. So those articles are embedded in the packet. So happy to answer any questions or do whatever I can to address additional communications. More have come in, I believe, today, or maybe it was yesterday. So those will be part of the packet for September.
Thank you, John. Item number 9.
Just
Go
a
ahead.
quick
Sure.
comment on the communications. I have observed with the most recent press coverage that there is communications in different places than normal, so I'm happy to just hold your thanks.
Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
I just have a comment. The Record had the most amazing article about our executive director with one of the finest pictures of him standing proudly with his helmet and bicycle. I thought it was a wonderful article, John, and so I just wanted to give a shout out.
Just had come from the circus, so that's why the bike is the size it is.
So I commend you, but I also commend the author of the Record who wrote that piece.
Thank you very much for calling our attention to that. Okay. Moving on to item number 9, unfinished business, Winnetka Golf Club update from Kemper Sports.
I'll go get them.
They're on their way there.
Right?
Excellent, nicely done.
Thank you. There he is.
Oh, we're up, all right.
Yeah, you're on.
Well, it's good to see all the football players out there. We went from lacrosse to football now, so. So we wanted to give everybody a brief update as to what's been going on over at the golf course, a brief update on construction, marketing update, operations, and then we wanted to talk a little bit and give an update on the handrail project that's going on. So I'm going to turn it over to Andrew, who's going to talk about the construction.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me. Just a little update. Week 23 of golf course construction, nearing the very end. Last 3 weeks, here we go. And then another 3 weeks, we have grass growing on 6.5 holes right now. So in the last 3 weeks, we've seeded almost 7 holes. So the process is moving right along. Some key points up there and dates on completion and working themselves out of the par 3 and off the property by the completion date of September 15th. So right now everything is going to plan. A little bit of rain here in the last couple of days, kind of slowing us down just a little bit, but everybody's firing in all cylinders. So here in the next couple of days, heat's gonna go back up, it's gonna dry out, and going to get back on track. Some pictures of the guys hydro mulching here, completely hydro mulched. Number 12 here is a picture of the fairway looking back towards the tee. Plenty of grass. That picture was probably taken almost a week ago. So a lot more grass out there. The grass in the rough is probably, the seedlings are probably about 3 inches tall at this point. So we're making progress.
Yeah, it looks great out there. I mean, you walk down 2, 3, 4, the grass is starting to come up nicely, and Andrew and his team have done a wonderful job. It won't be long now before they have to get out there and start mowing it. So, one of the things that we have will be rolling out here pretty shortly is some guided tours of the golf course, be given by Andrew Garner and Matt as well. We're going to host them on Sundays in September, so September 3rd, 10th, 17th, and 24th. We're going to roll this out online. It could be a link to register online. We'll roll it out on social media. We'll put it on the website. We'll send an e-blast out as well. And we're gonna keep it to a maximum of 8 people per guided tour out on the cart paths. We have to stay on the cart paths. But if we need to add any additional, we certainly will add additional, but we wanted to make sure that we did that. I will say we have had some people that have been coming out onto the golf course. So hopefully anybody that's been out there will sign up, and this will give everybody the opportunity to go see what's been going on. But we've had some people out there that have been riding some bikes, and I know that there was somebody out there actually playing baseball the other day. So we have signs all around the perimeter. Andrew and his team, Matt, I know Matt went and got some additional signs that are all around the perimeter, but we have had to police it a little bit. All right, Mary Kate?
So a couple of quick notes on the marketing side. So we continue to see good traction on social media, especially when we post videos. I posted a hype video today for Discover Golf, so we have really great content with them, so we'll continue to push that out, especially as they're just about 3 weeks, I think, away from the start of their fall sessions. We have our website data up here, slightly down over the previous month, but that's most likely because we got our renovation video for July, which we'll show here just a little bit later this year due to the drone company scheduling and availability. So as you can see, that's still our most viewed page on the website behind the homepage. So I did put that video up there today. We haven't posted it so that we could all watch it here, and then I'll post that video tomorrow. So our August newsletter, which will go out in the next couple of weeks, will contain that video, as well as we're looking to have the drone company come out in the next week or so as well to capture some August footage. And then the Park District sent a dedicated golf course email last week as well, so that had lessons, content, the renovation, fitting days, all that kind of stuff. So I've continued to work with Kate in their marketing department to cross-promote with the Park District. And then finally, we're excited that by September 1st, we're gonna announce our naming contest for the Part 3. So be on the lookout for that. So we'll get the public involved in that. It should be fun. We'll announce that via email, social media, and on the website. And then along with that, we'll produce a new logo for the course.
Press the next one. Get some volume. Try to get some volume.
Hey, Mary Kate, before we get to the volume, is the naming and the logo specific to the 9-hole, or is the logo specific to the entire 27?
So the naming specific to the 9-hole, we had talked about in the beginning doing a logo, looking at a logo for the entire facility.
Okay,
too.
thank you.
Normally kicks on.
Well, I mean, you can see the final grade that's taking place, and obviously all the work that's happening. They're seating on hole number 13 right here. And remember we had talked about the cedars were going to be very low to the ground, finalizing the cart paths, etc.
If you like, I could probably pull this up out of the presentation and play it.
Yeah, it's just some background music, if
Yeah.
anything, so it's more just so that there's something there, but there's no narration in it, just the captions.
Okay. Moving on to the operations, Matt.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you. Good evening. So it's going to sound a lot like the other months, but we're moving along on a real positive note. Parkinson's clinics are continuing. That's the program that we're doing in conjunction with tennis. We've moved those to 2 to 3 o'clock on our end, and then Pat will be at 3 to 4, so we can accommodate New Trier High School and their golf practices on our driving range. And then we started with Discover Golf. They've wound up their summer session, so they had a really successful summer campaign. We've already taken signups for fall. There are over 80 kids already registered for the fall, so it's exciting that they're maintaining their buzz and their role that they've had in our footprint there. And then also Vince and myself, we've been having some discussions on the food and beverage side pertaining to next season, directions that we're looking to go, as well as partners for the golf shop and getting some renovations done on the golf shop side. And then fall and winter programming for DG will be coming up shortly here. And then the range continues to do really well. So despite not having any play on the golf courses, we're staying really, really close to what we were doing the past few years with golf going on. So it's highly encouraging, and I'm sure if you went over right now, every stall would be full over there. So it's busy basically from about 4 until 7:30, and then kind of sporadic other than the weekends during the middle of the day.
Yeah, the range is almost kept on pace with 2022 numbers for revenue at the driving range. I think it's off $9,000 or $10,000 year over year with the golf course being shut down. So the numbers are just fabulous over there. So speaking of the numbers, financial update, these are final financials through July. Merchandise revenue, obviously 11,767 in merchandise revenue, very strong merchandise revenue, and mostly attributable to Matt and the relationship that we've built with Callaway Golf and the fittings that have been taking place out on the property. Overall revenue, 98,000 and change, exceeded budget by 18,000 favorable. Matt and the team have done a great job controlling not only the payroll costs, but also the operating expenses. That was a big deliverable on our part, was obviously to control all the expenses. And you can see 65,000 in July compared to a budget of 125,000. So it's really, Matt, Andrew, the entire team that has really bought into making sure that they can control all those costs, not knowing what the revenue numbers are going to be month to month. EBITDA, negative 30,000 on a budget of negative 125,000, and an NOI of negative 37 on a budget of negative 200. So year-to-date NOI is negative 270. We haven't lost as much as we had budgeted, with the budget being a negative 610. So a great job by the team, not losing as much as budgeted. On the handrail side, so last time we were here, we had talked to everybody about using the bridge guide for the handrails. We ran into a little bit of an issue. There were some red flags that kind of came up. My spidey sense came up a little bit when we started to kind of reach out to the bridge guide to finalize the project. And so we've taken a different turn from the bridge guide. The bridge guide bid $20,000 for that project on the handrails. We were finally able to reach the bridge guy after several, maybe a week or 10 days of trying to reach him. And he called back and said, well, I made a mistake on my numbers. I forgot to add this and that, and the number is actually going to be X. That was kind of towards the tail end of some conversations. We parted ways. We did not sign a contract with him. We did not put any money out with him. We wanted to wait until the project had started, really, before we did anything. So we went out, Costa assisted, went out, and Costa got Bear Construction, who I believe is a partner with the Park District, or at least has done some projects with the Park District in the past. They have bid on the project at $36,683.54. Where that fits with the other two bids that we had received, the other bids were $45,000 and $96,000. So a little bit higher than the bridge guy, although the bridge guy came back at 40. That was his second go-around. So Bear Construction is still, the low bid. So we are planning to come back to the board in September, because it's over the required threshold. We'll come back and formally ask, step in, Costa, if I'm wrong, but formally ask to enter into an agreement with Bear Construction. We will still, of course, absorb the cost within our operating budget. We do have the room in the operating budget. We'll still absorb it in there. Anything to add,
I think that's a good summary. Just since we did not go out to a formal bid, Bear Construction is part of our job work contracting program that we've purchased through before, and we were able to use that and secure that. Was able to bring Dan and his team out to review the site, take a look at the bridges. We walked and talked through all the bridges, came up with the schematic, which was similar in design with the two rail as was presented with the bridge guy, with his proposal going from $20,600 to $41,300, with the cost differential of $16,085.54. Feel that this is the most appropriate way to move forward with this. The nice thing about this is we can do this at our leisure this fall. It's not pressing upon construction or anything else. This won't hold up anything there. They can come in, finish the bridge work out prior to start of next year's season. So we're going to be looking to move seamlessly. The other nice thing is we're actually going to use the same supplier materials from the East Coast. Long Life Treated Wood Company, Patrick O'Malley, president of them, we reached out to them to make sure we have the same supplier so it looks seamless in our delivery as well. So those are avenues that we took to make sure that the project is done and is done properly. This will formally come back to the board in September for a formal vote, and we'll have a write-up in there to go with it at that time.
Great, that's the September 21st
Correct.
meeting,
Yeah,
correct? Just
yes.
so everyone can control that. Okay, great.
We'll earmark it on the committee on the 7th, but then yes, formally look for adoption close to that.
And any questions from the board?
In your prior golf course construction work, what else can we do to keep people off the course? I think that's such a critical message to the community, for dog walkers or just general walkers. How do we keep them off the course itself, other than they may go on the cart path? Great, but any other ways in which you've helped to encourage?
Yeah, I think a gentle reminder via email. We can send it to the database and give everybody a brief update on construction, and remind everybody that the course is closed. We have these guided tours. If you're interested, sign up for a guided tour. But otherwise, the golf course is closed until opening in summer of 2024. And we talked a little bit about the damage that can be done if somebody is out on the golf course, because it's extensive damage. There's footprints. There's been a lot of money spent to level everything, to get everything nice and smooth, to get the seed down, and we certainly don't want that to be ruined. But Dave, any other?
No, I mean, it's communication as best you can, obviously signage, and I don't know if there's a way to maybe get the message out within the community that surrounds the golf course itself. Maybe we can even do a little door-to-door, I don't want to say a mailer, but something that maybe we could just put, just knock on residents' doors, or I don't know who does that, but there really is.
Absolutely consider a direct mail piece to the neighbors. I mean, you might as well be stepping in wet concrete.
Right.
It's, and it may even be harder to repair.
Yeah.
It's, I can't imagine that people would be so disrespectful as to walk their dogs or play sports out there, and we need the community to police. So I'm fully supportive of direct mail piece to all the residents around the golf course, and to message out to our constant contact that this constitutes vandalism. You're vandalizing the millions of dollars that have been invested in this golf course for the benefit of the community. Please be respectful.
I think that this meeting, if people are watching it, will be a good education for everyone. I think once people know better, they will do something a little bit better, more respectful. But I think the communication piece is a really important. Thank you. Any other questions for Ken? Yes.
I just had a couple of thoughts down there. I wonder if the village would let us put something in their stormwater, their weekly stormwater update. And I don't know, I mean, would the men's golf group be willing to?
Men's and women's.
Go out there and, like on the weekends, if they see people walking their dogs, just say, hey,
Yep.
I don't know if they consider being engaged in that way, but it might be a thought. And it's great news to see that we are on time with the seeding. We have been building up to this moment of, will we get the grass seed in time, will we not? So it's really fantastic to hear that everything is on track, everything is ahead of schedule on the grass. Grass is growing, and I'm excited to continue to watch it grow so that we're marching toward the opening.
I would assume that this would continue through the winter and into next spring. Stan?
Yeah.
Yep, so it should be repeated regularly.
Two items in that, of course. One thing that I've had some conversations with the contractor. Right now is critical time for finish grading, and the rains that we have, they cannot get their equipment out there to blow in the mulch that's needed to hydro seed until that dries out. So that's something that we've been talking through a little bit, because that's gonna push them right up against the 15th for getting everything completed. All the major amenities will be completed, we're assured, but as they walk their way out of the project, seeking through the par 3 is a concern that they have right now that we're talking through. And every time we get a rain that delays them a day or 2, or even 3, as from the rains that we received early in the week, that potentially has a adverse effect to the project, because they are working 6 hours and they're working 6 days a week, 10-hour days to get this wrapped up. But that's something that is a concern for the contractor right now, we are discussing. So just be aware of that as a board. There is some discussions about talking through that with elected officials on what that might look like if there's an extension of a week or 2, still knowing that we're within the seating window versus the arbitrary date of September 15th that was negotiated as part of the IGA. So I just want to make sure that the board understands that that is something that we're working towards, and the contractor is working feverishly to get done in time, but that is a conversation that I've had with some of the construction update team at a high level, so just be aware that's something that we're considering. No formal request has come through yet, but I just want to make sure this board is aware, because the next time we meet come September 7th, there might be something between then and now that goes out to the board, so you are aware of that ahead of time. The other thing to be aware of is fencing. Once the project is substantially completed and final completion, that means the fencing comes down. There's not much fencing out there, but the fencing that we do have is going to be a concern for trying to keep people off the course, especially as it relates to the par 3 that has a lot more exposure. So we might want to think about ways to dial that in, maybe invest in snow fencing to help with that, or more signage, whatever that is, but we can work through as a team to address that concern, but that's something else that's going to come up pretty quick, just to be aware of.
We'll work through that.
Thank you. Any other questions for Kemper? Thank you very much, friends.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Item 9.2, here is Beth. Here is Beth. Thank you. Perfect timing, Beth.
I was watching. Okay. All right, so first up is the policy manual.
Correct.
Had 3 weeks-ish to review it and send me your questions. I did get a few questions, made some adjustments. So I'm asking that you approve the policy manual as presented.
May I have a motion to approve the personnel policy manual as presented?
So
Second was Jeff.
Yep.
Excellent. Any discussion?
Just a question. I really appreciated Jeff and Cynthia's memos that are very helpful. My question, Bev, is did you remove any sort of control of commissioners from the policy manual? Was that removed, the language, as far as ethics and?
No, I sent an email to everybody.
Sorry, I must have missed that.
I sent an email to everybody of what changes I made.
Okay.
And what is a board decision, not my decision.
Okay.
So you need to discuss that amongst yourselves. And I think you're referring to Cynthia's
Correct.
comments.
And I think also Jeff had a comment on that. He thought maybe it was more appropriate to have commissioners addressed in the policy manual for the district rather than in the person.
So I did respond to that as well.
Okay.
I did remove an allegation of a board member against a board member.
Okay, thank you.
And in my email, I mentioned that a sexual harassment policy, gifts and gratuities policy need to also be added to the board manual.
Yes.
And Denise and I will work on that.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I had a comment.
Sure.
So hopefully people had a chance to read them. I had proposed some clarifications to section 4.2, section 11.4, and section 2.2.7 on appeals when employees are bringing things to the president of the board, the president then is obliged to bring that to the full board, so that the policy manual is not granting additional authority to the president. The other section that I had included for discussion was just section 7.15, use of park district facilities and programs. I personally did not feel like that language was clear enough on the full range of benefits that we are offering to full-time employees and their immediate families. And I had shared some examples from Highland Park, which I have here, where they segment this in for full-time employees, part-time employees, and seasonal employees, and actually like list out the benefits. It seems like there could be different tax considerations and kind of use considerations on whether something is a discount or a completely free offer. So I think that I think we should approve the manual, but I would suggest that as a board, perhaps we suggest that we direct staff to do a little bit more research and come back in 3 months or November when it's less busy with some further thought, because I can appreciate that for Beth to go through, a 200+ page policy manual was an overwhelming task, for which, as a board member, I am completely grateful for taking that on. And then the other point is that in our commissioner manual, we do not have a section like this at all. So this section applies just to employees, but we do not have a parallel section in our commissioner manual, which other boards do. And it seems like, Adam, in your book, you have some, guidance on that in terms of just making sure that things are not compensation for being a commissioner in terms of benefits that are offered from the park district. So I think just doing a little bit more review on this particular section in the coming months would probably benefit us. The thing that I specifically liked about Highland Park is that they offer some benefits for seasonal employees. So I think to help us with recruiting camp counselors, it might be attractive to be offering a beach pass or, a couple times on the driving range or whatever, family par 3 or.
Okay.
So I think just a little bit more thought there might help us.
Okay. So we definitely have a whole commissioner project, which will be super exciting for you ladies. And, but I understand, I'm hearing that everybody's ready to approve this with some items identified as additional refinement. Okay. May I have a motion to approve the personnel policy manual as presented?
So moved.
Excellent. A second?
Second.
Excellent. A roll call.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Thank you. This is Beth again. This
Yes,
is Beth's
I'm-
segment of the meeting.
Yes, the next item, so to remind you of what my recommendations are for the 3 items that I presented last month. So for the compensation plan, I'm recommending the open range plan, which means it's merit-based increases annually by performance. And then in addition to that, a yearly adjustment to the pay scale. So reviewing what other park districts are doing and how they're adjusting their pay scale and determining how we want to
What
adjust
the
our pay
appropriate
scale.
range adjustment.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then item 2 was the pay philosophy. So I'm recommending a pay scale of at least the 60th percentile. And then the last item was internal equity. So when you do these types of studies, depending on what the market does and how current staff are being paid, the majority of staff fell within the ranges, which is great. That's what you want to see. It means that we're paying equitably. But there were a few that were below. And so the practice is to bring those that are below up to the minimum and then look at internal equity. So are there people in the same position who have been in that position longer and adjusting their pay up a little bit? So there were a few of those that I also recommended, and those were highlighted in the spreadsheets and color-coded.
Yes.
So easy to see who might need to be adjusted. So those are my recommendations.
Excellent, okay. May I have a motion to approve the proposed recommendations made by GovHR and staff, including Beth Doster, thank you very much, for the compensation plan, the pay philosophy, and the internal equity recommendations as presented?
So moved.
Excellent.
Second.
Excellent. Any additional discussion? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Thank you, Beth. Okay. Item 9.5 is the governmental cooperation agreement between Winnetka Public Schools District 36 and the Winnetka Park District. Oh, sorry. Pardon me. 9.4. Consideration of Epley Institute's proposal, Executive Director, Assessment Center for the Winnetka Park District. Eric and I had a conference call. Before I ask for the motion, I'll explain the background to this. I think you have an example of some work product in your board packet. And Eric and I had a conversation both with Epley Institute themselves and then with Molly Hamer, who was, number one, chosen via the Epley Institute's process, and then participated as the outgoing executive director at Northbrook. And it was very helpful to us. And she outlined that GovHR would produce 4 candidates, and then the vetting, the questioning, the interviewing would be done either by the board or by Epley. What was particularly interesting to me, and I'll let you speak for 2 seconds, was the case study, which is a real-time example of an issue that may come across someone's inbox that they will be responding to in writing. I thought that case study would be helpful to us.
Yeah, I think it's a great overlay to the process that we'll be executing. And so between GovHR, our interview process, and the Epley Institute's programming, I think it'll help us identify the best candidate.
So, may I have a motion to approve the Epley Institute's proposal for the assessment center for the executive director for the Winnetka Park District?
So moved.
Second.
Any additional discussion?
Just a comment, I think it's outstanding, it's fantastic. I think it will provide great benefit to identifying the right candidate.
Good. Okay. Denise, may we have a roll call?
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay, now we're on to 9.5, the intergovernmental cooperation agreement between Winnetka Public Schools District 36 and the Winnetka Park District for the shared use of facilities.
This is a document that's been a long time coming, so long that we're not even sure how long it's been coming. But I think what's most important about this document is there's nothing that is groundbreaking, revolutionary, or all that different than how we normally operate and currently operate with regards to District 36 and the Winnetka Park District. This is taking how we operate and putting it in writing so that we have security, we have assurances that our partnership will continue at least for the duration of this agreement, but more importantly demonstrate a commitment to doing good for the Winnetka community and making sure that services that are enjoyed or taken advantage of by the Winnetka Park District participants and staff are also equally weighed with benefits that District 36 receives and is able to provide for the community at large. I sent a message to the board earlier today to clarify 3 items that were updated in this current version of the agreement. If you read the agreement that was included in the draft board packet on Friday, these 3 changes were made over the weekend through communication with District 36 and are accurately reflected in the agreement that is in the packet. So I think this is, again, a long time coming, a great achievement for the Park District as well as District 36, and will stand as the first of many, many, many renewals.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your hard work on that. I know other people contributed. May I have a motion to approve the intergovernmental cooperation agreement between the Winnetka Public School District number 36 and the Winnetka Park District for the shared use of facilities as presented?
So,
Second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, please.
thank you, Kyle, for getting this done. Hooray.
Yep.
I know it has been like decades in the making, so it's great to see it.
And the
going
district is ready to vote on it as well, so
Okay,
excited to get
fabulous.
this done.
Excellent.
Good. Thank you very much.
Ditto.
Yeah, excellent. Give a second. That's up to the extent of our discussion. Excellent. A roll call vote, please, Mindy.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes?
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
And Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay. This is just a review item, item number 9.6, the review of the intergovernmental agreement by and between the Board of Education of the Winnetka Public School District number 36 and the Winnetka Park District to transfer real property. The final vote to approve this with final contracts will take place on 9/21. Just to clarify, I knew there were some questions about that, so I wanted to make sure everybody's going to know that. That's to approve the final version of the contract. Okay. This is a review. We can have a short conversation about any points that would articulate, but Adam, would you like to present the agreement?
Sure. I guess I'll address first a legal comment that was made earlier tonight. The authority that the Park District and the school district are exercising to engage in this transaction is the Local Government Property Transfer Act. We are not exercising the authority cited earlier in the Park District Code. The Local Government Property Transfer Act allows the Park District and the school district to engage in this type of real estate transaction because the property is remaining in public hands. I won't give you any more details than that, but we are exercising express authority in Chapter 50 of the Illinois law that is shared between the schools and parks and other local governments. The agreement, as you know, conveys the 8,000 square foot parcel that will be used for the gymnasium and classrooms. It also conveys the 20-some thousand square foot parcel for the playground. The agreement that you have in the packet contained our first stab at the covenant and reverters that we were directed to include in the agreement. That's a subject that I imagine will probably volley back and forth with the school district a little bit. Preliminarily, we're not that far away, but it's not final yet. That was obviously a point of import for the board to make sure that the playground remains a playground, and that as a result of us giving them property, we're going to remain able to use Crow Island School for park use indefinitely. As long as they own the playground, we'll continue to be able to use Crow Island School. The shared use of Crow Island School is designed to mimic the terms for shared use that are otherwise applicable to other real estate that we share with each other. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel as it relates to how we share our respective properties, but we're calling it out separately in here as part of the consideration in exchange for the playground property. The remainder of the contract really is just a boilerplate real estate agreement, nothing too extraordinary about it. The Park District and the school district are scheduled to consider it towards the second half of September. And if it is approved at that time, I anticipate that we could close on the exchange or probably before Thanksgiving. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I just have a legal question, and as far as Mrs. Creshawn's comment, as I looked at the Local Government Property Transfer Act, it appeared that even though you had districts that were not a direct overlay, in other words, we have residents of Glencoe and we have residents of Northfield. As I looked at some of the case law, it looked like that was just fine. We could still transfer the property under the Local Property Transfer Act, even though it does seem we are disadvantaging our Park District residents in Northfield and also in Glencoe. But that's my question.
So I'm not gonna comment upon whether anyone's disadvantaged.
No, you don't have to. My question is, well, I guess.
Your reading of the law is correct.
Okay.
We do not have to be wholly coterminous.
Yeah.
The school district doesn't have to be wholly within the Park District or vice versa. There just has to be overlap.
And there is no conflict between, I'm kind of curious in listening to Mrs. Schresheim, there's no conflict from the section of the Park District Code versus the Local Government Property Transfer Act, is that correct? Haven't been any litigation involving that, to your knowledge?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Warren?
I'd like to make a couple of comments responding to some of the comments that were made earlier. Again, thank you, Kyle, for that IGA. Mary, you had referenced earlier a license agreement between the Park District and D36 over the use of the first grade playground, which is the subject of this document. Over the course of the better part of a year, neither the Park District nor D36 was able to produce any such agreement. There was no agreement. There is no agreement. It's just been there, that this land has been used for playground purposes for the better part of 70 plus years. And much like the IGA, the Intergovernmental Cooperation, we were looking to distill it to writing and properly document that relationship. There is no change in land use. In our prior discussions, we noted that Crow Island is protected. It's a
Historic landmark.
Historic landmark. So the probability of any changes to the facade along Willow Road are de minimis, and the reverter clause was expressly put in there with the intent that should somebody down the line decide to propose a different use, that property would come back to the Park District. And again, D36 cited the need to secure the perimeter of the property with a fence. And we felt that it was most appropriate, given we were going through the transfer of the gymnasium parcel, that we would do it both at once and make it efficient. With respect to the 8,000 square foot parcel that's being transferred to the D36 from the Park District for the purpose of the gymnasium, that was unanimously supported. And yet, that parcel is the only, that piece is really the only thing that's taking up open space. That is a change of use of the land. Now, the consideration or the thought process of going into that with D36, they had several different floor plans. They had a floor plan that did accommodate the gymnasium entirely on their property, but it significantly compromised the south-facing courtyard that everyone knows and understands about Crow Island. So rather than artificially offsetting the center line, they came to us and said, could we properly center this gymnasium in the classrooms so it continues with the underlying design of the building? And of course, we said, yeah, it makes perfect sense. And the open space that's given up on the park property is retained on the school district property. It's a net zero. So I think in our considered judgment, it was unanimous consent that we should transfer this parcel, knowing that the Park District is going to receive great benefits and continues to get great benefits through our intergovernmental cooperation.
That was exactly 3 minutes. That was very nice. Thank you very much. Any other conversation?
Yes, I had a few questions. We had 2 separate motions for this. why do we not have two separate agreements to cover each parcel separately?
So, the
How does Adam's time factor?
I'll just pause.
Okay, pause.
A question, clarification for council, does that enter into our 3 minutes?
No.
Thank you.
That's what I was asking.
We have to pay for Adam's time, so we want him to be as accurate and complete as possible. For us, we're going to try and hold ourselves to 3 minutes, which I'm very grateful for. Thank you, Adam.
So, at the last meeting, the board voted on the policy question about whether or not it intends to sell each parcel. And it took those parcels up separately. The board voted affirmatively to sell both parcels. So that's the policy direction. In the course of executing that intent, it's more efficient, it's more economical to combine the transactions into one contract, into one closing, to avoid duplication of costs, to avoid duplication of fees, duplication of title expenses. Everything gets consolidated into one. And it's consistent with the direction given by the board that was to sell both parcels.
Here's my concern. Some of us are looking at those contracts and saying, how strongly do we feel about this reverter clause? I'm going to ask you about that separately, but the intent, I believe, in putting them in two motions was the legislative process can be unpredictable. I believe that we will need to vote on these again because this was a vote to prepare the agreements, and that we will need to vote on them again in the form of a resolution underneath the Local Property Transfer Act, as we did with Library Park. Is that correct? So there will be another vote on the actual, like we voted to prepare the agreement, but there will be another vote on the resolution to actually execute. Is that correct? Is that not correct?
On September 21st, there will be a resolution presented to which the agreement will be attached to approve exercising the authority in the Property Transfer Act and approving the contract.
You mind if I interrupt for a second?
Yeah, that's fine.
So,
Christina will track me.
This is really hard. This is really hard because I want you to have your time and I want you to
I
have
suggested we split them up, and the intent wasn't so that we had two separate documents. The intent was that we could get to a vote to discuss and get rid of the questions that were on the floor. That was the intent. So I agree with Adam that you can put them both in one document, and you can structure them in a way that you have these problems that you're identifying solved for in the one document. Right? One comment I was going to make to Adam is the reverter clause here relates only to the playground parcel and not the other one, right? So I think we ought to have two reverter clauses in here, right, that act independently of one another so that we have that down, right? That's a comment that I had. Secondly, in the reverter clause, I think the sub A or sub B is not entirely complete. There may be instances, for example, if D36 goes bankrupt in the future and has to give away its land. As impossible as that might sound, we still have to sort of account for it. And so we have to account for things where D36 might be compelled to forego some of its assets when we're talking about reverter, not just its use, right? Its choice to use or sell these things. And then I had another comment on the 8.1D, which I think there needs to be a mirroring sort of indemnity provision there for post-closing liabilities.
Can I address the dual reverter clause?
Sure.
The second property we're giving them is going to be incorporated physically into their building?
It's absolutely meaningless to me. If they choose to sell that building, or if they choose to, or if they're compelled to give up that building in some way, that wasn't the deal, right? The discussion here was there was going to be a reverter, right? I don't care that they put a building on top of it. It's still land that we're giving them under the condition that if they stop using it for the purposes of school, it comes back to us, right? I don't care whether there's a building on it or not. So I think there ought to be a separate reverter clause in there, independent of A. There should be a B reverter clause too. I mean, I think that was the tenor of the discussion, frankly. I mean, that's where I was at least, so.
I was hoping I'd be wowed by these reverter clauses from like.
Well, they're not.
raising
But we don't need two separate documents. I don't think we need two separate documents.
It's just, I mean, the legislative process can be unpredictable, and by separating them, if you are in a position where you might agree with one and not the other, it assures that the one that they actually need for the construction goes through. So I guess we can, return to that depending on.
Yeah, if there's a, I mean, I would think you can just do a red line of the agreement, right, if you have that.
No, but then we need to vote on it again, whatever, something unexpected happens. That was my concern. So the way that this is written, because I am not a real estate person, but in the title, there were like little tiny pieces saying, this is covered by document, number, and then it says, document reviewed, and it doesn't apply to this transaction. When we have this reverter clause, when we have a similar provision attached to the deed that comes up if D36 tries to close their school and sell it to a developer later, that the land will come back to the park district.
So
Just
the language in section 22 will comprise part of the deed that we give to D36. And so it will be recorded in the chain of title, and it will be enforceable as a result of that.
It'll show up in the next title policy.
Yeah.
So it'll show up in the next, like,
It'll
survey.
be public record, and it'll be available for the whole world to see.
Including somebody who wants to buy the land. Yeah. They'll see it.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am?
It would be really neat to see the model form deed as part of the package prior to vote. So we can just look at it, if that would be appropriate. Again, I want to respond to Commissioner James. We may not have had a formal agreement, but if you like history, and I love it, and you want to go through the old minute books, what you'll find is in 1954, there's actually going to be minutes that talks about the formal agreement to let D36 use this specific property for playground purposes. Again, I will reiterate my comments from our prior meeting. This property is worth a lot of money. And I would surmise it is in excess of $1 million. I understand that we are accommodating intergovernmental districts. I do comprehend that. I also understand that we're carrying debt right now. And so I remain unconvinced that this should be a gift of the school playground property. I don't think it is good policy at all. We have, as Mary Garrison so artfully stated tonight, we have different missions. Our mission is to protect natural resources, to maintain open land, and to acquire additional open land. It's not to give it away. And I know I'll be a minority in this, but I am very much against the idea that we are making this a gift. I fully support the idea of giving the land on which the gym is going to be constructed. I understand the need for that. There's an actual need. I don't see the need to make this gift when D36, I believe, is, if we decide that we want to sell it, is able to purchase. So that's it. My comment.
Oh, wow, I've got 56 seconds left.
If I may.
I had one question for you, and you might be answering it, is what is the economic value of the service exchange?
Correct. Yeah, so this is very much not a gift. Baked into this agreement is a price, and it is use of Crow Island and the new gymnasium and all supporting facilities at Crow Island in perpetuity for the length of this agreement. And so we are talking about circumstances that we don't ever envision will happen, i.e., District 36 going bankrupt and selling Crow Island. We never expect that to happen. But we also have an IGA that has just been passed that has a 5-year term limit, that at the end of 5 years, we have no expectation D36 will not want to enter into it, but they could. And this agreement will ensure that even if the IGA gets washed out and they push us out of every single school, we will have a bare minimum programmable space that currently, as a district, we do not possess. We are absolutely handcuffed with our lack of indoor space in this district, and a main component of our indoor programming is dependent upon the spaces that we're allowed to use in District 36. And so to have the ability to use their entire district as outlined in the IGA is phenomenal. To have the guarantee of using Crow Island, that is what allows us to stay afloat, if you will, for this community.
Thanks. Did you have another comment? Or you're set?
I could.
I know you could go on.
The value of the property is predicated on its use, right? And its permissible use. This property is open space, thus conveying it, it does not have commercial value per se. The underlying zoning is residential. We've talked about that in the past. That rests with the village, that the village should be updating their zoning code to introduce open space, institutional and school uses so that any such proposed change would first go before the village. So the value of land is predicated on what you use it for. This is open space today. It will be open space tomorrow. If anybody proposes a change to that, it comes back to the district.
I have one more question for Adam.
Okay.
We have a special use permit, I think jointly with the Schmidt Burnham House, which is in close proximity. Is there any concern that with the change of ownership, it would have any impact on the agreements that we have with the Historical Society for the lease of that property? Setbacks, like, do we need to be worried about that? Do we not? Like, I just don't know.
So, first I'll say I haven't read the special use permit.
Okay.
But I've given the advice to the board before that zoning is not regulate ownership, it regulates use. And as the agreement provides, we're endeavoring to guarantee that the use of the property we're selling remains the same.
Okay.
Except for the gymnasium space.
So are we in agreement with James's comment about having reverters on both pieces of property? I mean,
I don't think there's any downside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I think that's
Yeah.
great.
I mean, I think that honors sort of the tenor of the discussion that we were having.
Yeah, good.
And appreciating that, you know, you guys had different viewpoints on a couple of those pieces, but I think generally everybody kind of agreed that we got to be having here, so.
Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'll catch up with James
Oh,
about
excuse me.
but I understood the reverter.
We have one very important additional comment.
I'm not sure if it's important, but just for clarification on that last piece, I've had an opportunity to talk with David Shute about this because we were working in the background with all the calculations for stormwater and everything else that's
Okay.
part of this and what we need to do with the property and the exchange. Everything that we have in regards to the lease agreement for the Historical Society and the offsets and setbacks for that, none of this is going to be affected by that. The
Okay.
land use and nothing else, plus the calculations for stormwater, what we need on our site, the amount of site that we have, plus the covered area that's going to be affected by this. We still have room to build. I think it was like the number was at 168,000 square feet structure we wanted to build on our land. So this is not offsetting our ability to function or for them to function as well within the property lines.
Okay, good, yeah, great, thank you.
That's very helpful. Okay, good. So I think we've made some progress on that to refine that contract a smidge. 9.7, Elder Lane and Centennial Park and Beach. Costa, that's you. So you just took a large drink of water. That's prudent.
Clear the palate. Christina, thank you. As discussed previously, we brought this matter to the board's attention, and further discussion, we've had an opportunity to further investigate this, both Kyle and I, and looking through this, it's under staff's recommendation to move forward with fencing on this site to better secure the fence location and the site for the beach. We are looking to project to run fencing continuous from the end of the fencing currently surrounding the playground at the top of the table bluff, due south to the property line, and then extend that due east until we hit the wooded area. is the 261 residence does not have a east-west fence. So to encapsulate that entirely, we would be putting a gate section in at the drive. Had an opportunity to talk with FD on this, Chief Ripka. He has agreed that access to that is important, and we would put in a gate section with a key block that both PD have and FD have, both police and fire can access that. And he said that if we need to get in there regardless, if it's an emergency, we're not even gonna go get the key, we're just gonna cut and get in and get to where we need, which is totally understandable. So we are presenting that we would do this with materials that we already have in-house, that we purchased previously for the temporary dog fencing at Centennial. So there wouldn't be any incurred cost for the fencing, with the exception of the labor. And then the incurred costs for signage, I believe is minimal. Tell if you.
We have 8 24 by 36 aluminum signs that have been ordered, are on their way. They total cost just over $400, which is absolutely one that we could absorb in operating budget.
So the efforts to do this, to define this further, give a hard barrier, our efforts previously with barricades, construction fencing and so forth at multiple levels was seen and unfortunately ignored by the fact that they were pulling it down daily, we were reinstalling it daily. This is going to give a hard barrier for somebody to cross or access that site further, while still allowing access for emergency service as needed if they need to gain access to the site.
Don't we have a hard barrier for the steps north of Elder?
Currently in place, yes, we already have a section of temporary fencing that is wire tied to the existing fencing. So this would solidify the north property line all the way to the south property line with signage posted for no trespassing, site closed. This does not eliminate, and I just want to stress this does not eliminate somebody traversing the beach and gaining access from the north if they were traversing along Lake Michigan, or the south if they were coming in as well. We don't have the ability to create those boundaries without going through permit regulations with the IDNR, because now we're putting fencing on beaches and we're imposing that right against what the public trust doctrine is suggesting. So our ability to secure the site from the tableland is what we're solidifying. Our ability to secure the site from north and south boundaries adjacent to the park are out of our control at this time. So at this point, it would be staff's recommendation to improve this, make this improvement, and put this up as early as next week.
Just a question thinking about it, is there a way instead to fortify it at the ramp behind the, how there's a table where you can look out and see the lake, and then there's the fence there, and then there's the ramp to then go down to the beach? Is it possible to put the reinforcements lower so that people can still go down and enjoy the view and eat dinner on the platform? Or, I'm just thinking about Kim's comment too about, having more eyes on the lake in whatever fashion is in some ways an advantage, because then you can see hazards. If you see kids who have made their way, adults might be inclined to say something.
Sure.
And then also, I think just listening to the plan, reinforcing the signage, for any beach access further down, might be beneficial. Because I don't know what those signs are. Are they tableland signs, or are they also sand level signs?
They would be both at the tableland as well as at the sand.
Okay.
And the signs will be this. Super good drag.
I would suggest that the turn at the tableland is going to give greater cause to pause, and there's going to be more eyes than somebody not being seen by the general public jumping a fence if it's lower. When we installed the fencing before, we had the tableland. We had put a solid barrier at the walkway that's adjacent to the beach house for the AD access going down to the pier, and we also had screened off from the edge of the railing back towards the bluff in that corner for the ramp, the vehicular ramp going down, and all of that was ripped out numerous times on numerous occasions. Every time that I went down there, I probably shoot away anywhere from 2 to a dozen people. Every time I went down there, I wouldn't leave until they left. So I think having the turns up top is probably gonna be a graded return, because now there's more eyes, as you suggested, for people to see somebody jumping the fence and making that choice versus down below. Nobody's watching, nobody can see me, I'm just gonna go hop and enjoy the pier or enjoy the beach. So my staff's recommendation would be to secure at the table end.
I would also say there is the possibility of putting it down at the beach level to inadvertently create an attractive nuisance. Here's the fence, I want to jump over it. And I think that would be a risk when you're at the beach level, spurred on by the beauty of the beach.
Although this is simply a recommendation, I'd like to have a clear vote on this one, if that's acceptable.
It's on the agenda.
Yeah. So I'd like to ask for a motion to erect a fence at the tableland as described by Costa Gatulos at Elder Beach.
So moved.
Second.
Can we have a vote?
Commissioner Hemmings?
Are we calling for discussion now?
Oh, geez, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, I thought we just had our discussion. I apologize. We can have more discussion. It's
More
fine.
discussion.
Yeah.
I just have a comment. This is my neighborhood, as you know, Costa, and I'm there a lot. And what I see is there are a lot of people that use that ramp up and down. They run it, and they use it for their physical fitness. And so again, I'm just gonna, kind of reiterate what Cynthia was saying. I understand that by putting a fence at the tableland, it perhaps would serve as a greater deterrent for visitors. But at the same time, that beach has been closed for years. The neighborhood loves that beach. They've come, they came this spring asking, would you please get it open? So I just wondered if an accommodation might be that the barrier be, again, somewhere on that little patio looking out in the lake. And if it's high enough, I would think that it would be quite a deterrent. And then again, no entry down the ramp. That would give people the opportunity to come on down, to look, and again, picnic or whatever they do, but not access the beach. It's just a question, because the neighborhood, we are a community of pocket beaches. The pocket beach in the neighborhood in which I live has been closed for 4 years. And, people, the neighborhood loves it. So I'm representing my neighbors in asking for this. And saying that I think it would serve as a deterrent. My second point is, I've asked before about whether we could not have police patrol of this area. Now, I know we have park patrol that are on Tower and Lloyd. I actually asked Winnetka Police, and they said, well, we try to drive down that road, but we don't do it very often. But it's, again, if it's fenced, that'll be a moot issue. It's not fenced. It would seem to me that by having the police a little more active in the area and watching, that it serves as a deterrent, particularly for the young. So, just a question.
Response in regards to fence materials, the fencing materials that we have, we would have to secure new fencing materials, especially if we're going for a higher fence, say it's 6 foot, because that fence would be installed against rails, so we wouldn't be able to pound and stretch material as we have. We would look to secure either rental sections, which could become costly depending on the time frame, or we might purchase those outright, so that would come as an additional cost above and beyond what we have in our current inventory. So my recommendation would still have the graded deterrent at the beach level, the access gate that we can provide. Police have access or keys for all of our gates. They would be able to walk through, drive down if they so choose. I believe they walk down because of the ramp and the location, but they would have access to gain that if they decide to do further watches on that site.
May I ask a question? Guesstimate, how much would this additional fencing material cost?
If I had to shoot from the hip for sections of fence for that, I would estimate somewhere in the ballpark around $3,000.
So a very nominal expense.
I would suggest to the board if you would like to have the community accessing that beach, take clear and obvious steps forward to fix the beach and get it open. Don't take the, a shorter route of
Yeah,
a
wait,
different
sure.
fencing.
Yeah. Okay. Cynthia, I think you had your hand up.
I was just trying to think out of the box. I mean, could we put plexiglass that can't be climbed, but still allows views? It just, the other thing is that New Trier does use that beach which I have been out there during school time. I've seen, even though the beach has been closed, fishing classes on the pier. So I think that possibly some additional communication and education I think sends a very conflicted message if the beach is closed and you are still going for your gym class down to the beach.
I think additional communication is required.
Yeah, if this
You'll
gets moved
coordinate.
forward,
That's
those
appropriate.
correspondence will be sent out and
Yeah.
affirmed, so
Yeah.
nobody is using the beach.
Okay.
I would also suggest that, so I've worked with New Trier for science classes. We could allow access to the beach through Centennial. They're under the understanding they should not access the beach without park district representation. We would be able to facilitate those access regardless of whether it's through Elder or through Centennial.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead.
I would just, Commissioner Root, I agree with you. We do want to open Elder Beach. I think all of us at this table want to open Elder Beach, and we spent hundreds of hours trying to open Elder Beach. And for a variety of reasons, we're not there. In the meantime, we need to secure that beach and prevent people going there and putting themselves and others at risk.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and state the motion that I'd like to, someone to advance. May I have a motion to support the erection of a fence at the tableland as initially described by Costa Catulas?
I think that motion was already made and seconded.
Okay.
This was discussion.
Perfect, okay. Shall we go to a roll call?
One more question. Does this fence require a village permit?
Does not require a village permit.
Thank you.
This is securing our site on our property.
Perfect. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Reluctantly, yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for that discussion. Thank you, Costa, for that assistance, and Kyle for answering those questions. We're on to item 9.8, which is a consideration to transfer budgeted hard costs to soft costs for Elder Lane and Centennial Breakwater Project, not to exceed $120,000. May I have a motion to approve the transfer of budgeted hard cost to soft costs for Elder Lane and Centennial Breakwater Project not to exceed $120,000?
So moved.
Second.
Excellent. Discussion. I'd like to start if you don't mind. Oh, do you want to start?
Christina, feel free.
We're responding to a couple of pieces of new information from the village. And they have informed us that they're going to be conducting a Southeast Winnetka stormwater study. And consequently, until that study is complete, they will not be moving that stormwater discharge pipe that is nestled in the center of our pier. Consequently, there's an option to keep the pier there, repair the pier, and because that pier provides some protection, take the curve off of the north breakwater. And at the same time, put in place the skeleton piping that we understand they will eventually move towards. Take it away, Costa.
Christina, thank you. We had the opportunity to meet with consultants and some of the board members who worked previously on this. Christina, thank you for your assistance on that, as well as Warren for that. As we've discussed previously and as we've worked through this, the discussions that were had based on the information that Christina has brought back with discussions from the village, along with the information that we have ascertained over the course of the last several months from the village with ordinances that they have put forward, have been approved. we are trying to work collaboratively with those motions as well as our plan to bring something back to the community to try to get Elder underway so we can get that beach open and beautiful for the community to enjoy. As part of that discussion, we looked at different opportunities for cost savings. What could we do with our current design? How could we tweak our current design to offset some of the cost based on the information that we have from the stormwater study session that's forthcoming from the village, as well as keeping our pieces, in this case, the concrete pier for the discharge in place. When we reviewed that and we talked through that at a high level with our consultants, unfortunately, because the change of scope and thus changes of scope that we've seen thus far, we've been executing on a lot of our coastal hours as well as our consultants' hours thus far. To take this and to make the tweaks to our plan to bring something back for the study session, proposed study session with our park board on September 7th, there are considerations to change the design, put forward a plan that could be approved, rendered with 3D renderings as part of the consideration for the hard cost and soft cost, as well as review and understanding of the existing concrete pier, what improvements need to be made to that pier from the issues that it has seen over the 75 years of existence, and what we need to improve that, keeping in mind that the existing outfall pipe for the stormwater, the 54-inch corrugated pipe that dewaters the southeast watershed of Winnetka, would need to stay in place in this interim time. We want to take a look at that after talking with our consultant team and further investigating that with Spaceco, Burke, Lakota, and Matt Wright, and his structural engineer from Westbrook. We are anticipating that cost to be around $100,000 divided between all of those entities. Like I said, there is a $20,000 to $25,000 cost in there associated with the renderings to bring the next photos to life to show what this looks like in the 3D imagery. We will have hard proposals that will come through to the board for ultimate approval, but to keep this train on the tracks and keep moving forward to progress towards permits so we can try to get underway with construction within the 2024 season, we are looking to adjust some of the hard costs that were budgeted for to soft costs to continue on through this, our planning phase, to bring back a plan design that is altered from our original phase plans of 1, 2, and 3 that was last shown to the board to an updated one, taking into consideration the changes that we've seen thus far. I'd love to answer any questions, or Christina or Warren, if you have anything to further elaborate, please go ahead.
I would just say that the biggest savings is taking off the return. So
Correct.
taking off the return saves us between $500,000 and $750,000. And that allows us to free up some money to pay for the additional planning and to perhaps repair the pier and then look at these additional 3D renderings that we've been talking about for quite a long time. So for me, if we spend the right amount of money and do the planning process correctly and continue to refine, then I think we'll come up with a better solution. So this is my motion. Do you want to say anything?
Nope.
Okay, all right. Yes?
May I ask a question? Costa, if we just focused on repair of the pier, would you have to go out to the Corps and the IDNR for that work? Because if you considered it maintenance work.
Maintenance work, no, but we need to first ascertain what is currently wrong with the pier and how to properly address those concerns and how to fix them.
Understood, and so who are we talking about who's actually going to be looking at that and doing the work? Is that going to be Spaceco?
The pier work would be coming through Westbrook, which is the structural engineer under the GC from Matt Wright.
Would it be possible to renegotiate Mr. Wright's contract so that we were not involving additional cost of expense from Red Barn?
It's a possibility, but we'd also have to look at the long-term scope of what was identified in that original contract for both the Elder site and the Centennial site as they were subdivided, and understand what we're willing to give up in order to phase that work in.
I guess my concern remains that that contract is the most expensive consulting contract we've ever entered. And I'm just wondering if, and with the unknown that we currently have with our village, we don't know where they're going yet.
Well, they have said that they're gonna do their study.
Understood.
And then once their study is complete, it may or may not include the moving of this fund. So
No,
we
I
need to-
understand that. I'm just saying, it's a big unknown. We spent a lot of money so far.
There
on
are
this
a lot of
project.
moving parts. There are a lot of moving parts.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But I guess where I'm focused on is if we're looking at just repair of the pier, is there a possibility that we could do that to try to get this beach open for next season? With all the unknowns we currently have with respect to our overall plan.
I think that's a secondary choice, because obviously the first choice would be to get the whole thing open. The first choice would be to do the one season improvements as we land on them, rather than the piecemeal.
No, I understand
Yeah,
that, but again, as we discussed yesterday, and this is probably for the 7th and not for tonight, but one of the concerns I have is Elder has been our most contaminated beach. Now we're talking about leaving the pier with the stormwater pipe in place, and we're also talking about Armor Stone breakwater that's going to further encapsulate a beach that has been a problem. So I don't know who looks at that and how we look at it, whether it's a hydrology report but I really have a concern that if we're gonna build an Armor Stone breakwater, we're gonna keep that pipe where it is. Are we asking for, for additional
To address that concern, as President Cotto leaded in, part of the design is to take the arm off of the breakwater. So
No,
now
I
we're
understand that.
proposing a straight breakwater out. Elevation and height has been identified, 585, tapering up to 587. The height and elevation of that, the stormwater that's proposed, and what our design is to include our infrastructure of the dual 36-inch pipes along with manhole 4, so this way when the ultimate time comes to change that conveyance from the existing 54-inch corrugated, relocated through our proposed route through the park as identified to be the least invasive route to the community and to the park land, to identify that, we would make that change and the water would still go off further than. The concern around the cove and bringing and holding that water in, once again, is something that we can review and model. There was suggested cost on that, upwards of $50,000. If that's an avenue the park district the park board would like to venture down, but it was under the recommendation from our consultants, those would be dollars necessarily, wouldn't be the best spend of those dollars, they would be potentially wasted. It would be better to take those soft costs and drive them into the hard costs and get the project completed.
Just a question on the contracting. Would we be better off doing this as time and material at this point instead of another proposal? Because no?
We
We
have a contract.
We have a contract for $800,000.
Okay, can I speak?
Well,
Can I speak? May I speak?
speak, yeah, you may speak, of course, but speak to the time and materials question, if you would.
I would like to say that we passed a resolution on May 25th, and we signed contracts. The only way anything is gonna get done is with permits. The only way we can advance this project is to advance the permit drawings. We have essentially been compelled to make changes by the village's actions, but we still have a fiduciary responsibility to our own constituents to correct the deficiencies at Elder and to reopen the beach. We are talking about modifying plans to do so. Our consultants have, I don't want to say they've been sitting still, but they've been stymied and in fact spending more time than anticipated trying to address the changes that have been imposed by the village's most recent actions. I think that Costa, I know you know this stuff, and to hear you explain it in this context is terrific. but if somebody's not watching it, it's lost to the ether. It needs to be distilled in writing. These are many complex interdisciplinary issues, pull on one, push on the other, so we have to distill it to writing, provide thoughtful written explanation so that what you know in your head can be read by all and absorbed by all. So we've got a ton of smart people trying to address these issues in an environment where we're being, various obstacles are being imposed along the way. That's what's driving the cost up, when you keep changing the plan. So I'd like to suggest that we include in our conversation some greater outreach efforts that involves a third-party public relations, but it's going to inherently involve technical experts to distill these issues to writing so we can better communicate the push and pull and the solutions that we're ultimately recommending.
Thank you. So this is, the specific motion that's been advanced is the movement of $120,000 from hard costs to soft costs. So is there any more conversation regarding that?
So it is not, we will see the contracts, we will see, because I
Yes.
provided
Budgeting
feedback
exercise.
previously
Yes.
that,
This conversation took place Monday.
okay.
And to be able to meet the requirements for 5 o'clock by Tuesday, especially to have board review, is impossible. I had conversations late yesterday, again today, to reaffirm the numbers. The estimate that we're putting out there is $120,000. Once again, this includes $25,000 to create the model and all the renderings to visualize this in 3D conceptual photographs. I don't want to say similar to, but similar to, for the less of a better term, of what we've shown before, so people can see the visuals on what this project is going to look like. But every time that we change that base diagram or the base model, that potentially is another cost. And that's the reason we've waited till now to construct those documents, is because this plan has numerous evolutions from from our first submittal to our open houses to continued open houses. It's changed dramatically through every one of those steps along the way based on community input and board input. And we're to the point where we're going to move forward, we're trying to move forward with a plan that is in the best interest of the community, that meets the requirements, that meets the budget, meets all the requirements that are imposed from all the governing bodies, and is something that the Winnetka, the community would enjoy for many years and be proud of. That's the end goal.
Final discussion?
For months, I have asked, can we please have a 3D virtual model?
So this is
Not pictures,
This cost is not, a scale model is not included.
but 3D model like the Village of Kenilworth was able to do with 3 beach options that they had. And they managed to do it in like 60 days, which they had a minimum, a middle, and then most expensive option, and they had a 3D visual of each one of those. What was so wonderful about that is, and they were very honest, they came out and they said each one of these proposals is going to affect and limit your lakeshore vista. So we want the community to know that up front. We heard tonight from Ms. Marsh, where she's talking about sightlines. It is very difficult for those of us who are not in the construction, engineering, artistic disciplines to try to visualize what impairment will occur when we do these armored stone breakwaters. We know what it looks like in Lloyd. You know, we can go down there, and you can't be on the beach, and you cannot, if you're standing in certain areas, you can't see.
Right, we're not talking about the
I
height of Lloyd
understand
anymore.
that, I understand that, but my point is, if we're going to spend another $120,000, I believe the Lakota Company has been paid over $1 million since we started this project.
I don't think that's an accurate statement. That is not an accurate statement.
Since 2015.
They include subcontracted work is included in their contract. That is a totally inaccurate
Well,
statement.
and I think you have to split those costs into the permits
Okay.
that we unfortunately
Then I will
pulled.
withdraw that comment.
Yeah.
But where I am on this is, we keep changing this. We started with a vision of a 1,000-foot beach. We are down now to very segmented beach where the 170 feet on the south side of Centennial is going to be fragmented. And so instead of this beautiful open beach, we keep having this segmented plan.
We have elements of that beach that are going to be difficult for us to move. And given that we work in partnership with the village, we need to be mindful about how to do that. And that's what this planning exercise can accomplish. So that's why I'm making this motion, or asking for this motion, and receiving, we received a second? Yes, okay. So I think everyone has had a chance to say their piece. I think you've spoken.
Well, I just asked a question, with this 120 grand, can we get a 3D virtual rendering so we can see what this looks like?
3D virtual renderings, yes. A scaled model, as you initially
Or
were
virtual
going
model.
towards, that is not on the table. But
Can't do that.
scaled model,
Virtual.
physically, no. Virtual, yes. And that's
So
why
they
it
can't
indicated.
give us the little movie.
It will give us snapshots in any position of that, but we are not creating a movie as what was presented before. That could be a possibility, but I would have to venture that cost out further.
This is a final comment, because you've each spoken many, many times, and I know that you have a lot to say about this, but everyone else has just spoken once.
Madam Chair, as I recall, our policy manual does not provide for a 3-minute rule. I'm not
understand.
aware that there's any state law or
No,
regulation
not at
that
all.
provides.
It's a courtesy. It's a
I
courtesy
understand
to our
courtesy,
fellow
but I
board
also
members.
understand we're spending a hell of a lot of money on a project that has been stalled and going nowhere and keeps changing. And
I
when
think each of these refinements is progress. I think each of these refinements is in response to community input. Each of these refinements is in response to board input. Each of these refinements is in response to the input of other agencies. And consequently, each of these additional planning efforts is required. Cynthia, did you have one more thing?
Yes, I am just highly sensitive to the additional cost on top of the cost that we've already incurred. And I would encourage you to look at the executed documents from Kenilworth and do a hard comparison of what they got from their consultants for that amount of money versus what we are getting from our consultants for the amount of money that we're paying them, to make sure that we are getting a good value in this next go-round, because it is a lot of money.
Okay. I think we've all been able to discuss as much as we might want to, and I think I'd be happy to take a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Rapp?
No.
Commissioner Root?
No.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, any new business?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Any staff reports?
Jimmy, you want to go?
Okay, thank you. Some of the feedback we received from our auditor was the issue of unresolved, abandoned, or uncashed checks. So one of the things that I've been working on is developing a policy for processing and removing those issues. I will be bringing a proposed policy to your attention at the September 7th meeting for consideration, so that it might be voted on this. So I don't-
Basically, just stop payments across the board.
Essentially. Well, in some instances, unclaimed property has to be turned over to the state of Illinois. So we're trying to determine what is unclaimed.
Go figure.
Whoa.
It doesn't become state property, it goes to the treasurer's office and they go on that website.
Yeah, and they
Right.
make.
Right, no,
efforts,
one of the
yes.
things we've been doing is determining what, in some cases, the checks were lost, and so we reissued them.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily unclaimed property, so we're trying to sift through that to determine what needs to go to the state and what doesn't. So,
Excellent.
So that policy will be forthcoming.
Excellent. Okay. Kyle?
Our in-house camps are wrapped up for the year. We had a very successful year over at Skokie School. It's a great facility for our camp, gives us a lot of room to move around. And it is no small marvel how it operates, especially given the referendum construction that is already happening in District 36. Great cooperation. I also want to point out with our in-house camps, they are truly special because one, we're going into facilities that we don't normally populate, and so it is started from scratch. Two, we're working with staff that doesn't normally do this or work together. That is unique in that we do not have childcare as an offering within our district, and so every year, come camp time, Toby Ross historically and Colleen Swanson has worked together as well this year. You know, Toby starts it from scratch and has to reinvent the wheel. And so I want to really acknowledge the work of the camp staff and what they do for the community, and also call out it's not perfect. And there are definitely ways that it needs to and will improve. And I'd like to say very confidently that this was a better year than last year. Coming out of COVID was a challenge, as we saw across society, but especially in some part-time staffing. It was a great achievement this year. We're excited to congratulate the end of our internships for Audrey Stremmel and Matt Cabrera. Matt Cabrera was an intern within the Recreation Department, still has a little bit of time left before he heads back to school. Audrey Stremmel was an intern for our marketing staff. Both did phenomenal work and, more importantly, allowed us to stretch a little further with the work that we do as an administrative staff. So thank you for their efforts. Wednesdays in the Woods and Children's Concert Series, highly successful this year. Family Beach Campout was an event that historically we've offered, went away during COVID, brought it back this year. Tried to hold it on one Friday, major storms. Tried to hold it on last Friday, held it, storm still came. But there were many troopers that held out through the night, so it was a great experience. Our beaches are still operating at full capacity, although we will transition into weekends only following this weekend as New Trier starts next week. New Trier high school students and high school students in general make up a majority of our camps, or excuse me, our beachfront staff. We also have a large contingent of college students that have already left, so we will transition to weekends only for our swimming beaches. Lloyd will stay operational throughout into September, at the very least through to Labor Day, and then boat launching will still be available in September for kind of on an as needed, as contacted basis. Our school day off programming will be beginning for the first time this year, not something we've offered previously, but in response to community feedback. A lot of parents asking for a place to have their children go to during those school day offs. We're excited to offer that. We're working with the Skokie Washburn PTO for a kickball tournament on the first day of school. That will be a half day. And then finally, the Winnetka Northfield Library will be holding their end of summer party at Crow Island Woods this weekend. So another great example of all of the taxing bodies, government units working together. And that's all.
Thank you very much. I did not even think about the aspect of having to pull together your entire labor force, train them all, and then run those camps, because they are such community builders, especially during COVID, and I think it's a credit to your team that you kept all those people coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's great. Nice job. Anyone else? Yes.
One, thank you for all the efforts. I looked at the brochure and saw the school day off programs and thought, wow, that's terrific.
Mm-hmm.
I do have one question on the strategic plan survey, and if there is another communication plan, or how where we are in expectations for responses,
Mm-hmm.
or.
Yeah, right now the survey has closed. We received over 600 responses, unique responses. I think we had a small number of repeat households. So it's very, I think, impressive that it was over 600 unique houses that responded. We're in the process of looking through the data so that we can start to see themes with the strategic plan. I'm working with Denise to take that to the next step, identifying areas from our previous strategic plan that we did not realize so they can be incorporated into this next go-around. And then we will be working through that with a step beyond that to bring a community focus group in to have them inform and react to the product that is created. As a reminder to commissioners, you do have access to the survey data. If you've not already accessed that portal, please do so. You can go and see every single response and every single note. If you have any difficulty accessing that, reach out to staff. We'll be happy to walk you through. But Taylor Brooks did a phenomenal job building the dashboard for that, and I think it's relatively easy to absorb.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or staff members that would
One
like to?
quick thing.
Yes, of course.
August 22nd, next Tuesday, you all have appointments here. We will be in this room or over the tennis, and some of you are doing it Zoom. And so just wanted to remind everyone about next Tuesday.
Okay. Matters of the director.
Two quick updates. The legal expenses year-to-date, $121,000, slightly more than that. And then also the elder centennial specific fees, just about $290,000. So those two reports are available. Happy to provide more detail if you have questions regarding either of those spreadsheets. And then secondly, the Winnetka Women's Club dedication event. Costa's been great in helping to get things ready with a plaque and some other items. It's currently scheduled for September 8th. We may need to come back to you for another date depending on the delivery of the plaque itself. But we're working as closely as we can with the provider, I believe, in Florida. And so we'll have more news in the last couple of days of August if we need to reschedule.
Perfect. Okay. Board liaison reports. Let's start with me, the village. No report. I've shared the information I've learned, and we have all been involved as the village has gone. Yes, ma'am.
Is that your only report? Are you going to tell us about your meeting with the president of caucus, with Mr. Peterson, and how that all went?
Yeah, we can talk. We met with Susan Curry last week on Monday.
Yeah.
And very cordial, very professional. They asked for some information from us to flesh out their questions. They will be presenting questions, and they wanted a preamble and a list of links. So the preamble, for example, could be regarding projects that are, capital projects that are currently under consideration and the intended costs. And the links would be links to our annual financial report or survey data or anything else that they might want. So,
And do they have a date, a guesstimate as to when they will be?
I didn't,
I
September-ish.
can cover that.
Thank you.
Yeah, because you're the caucus liaison. Would
Thank
you like to go next?
No, I had another question about,
Oh, sure.
because I was actually surprised to
Yeah.
not see on the agenda the reassignments of the village liaisons
Yes.
as we discussed last time.
Yes.
So are you able to address that?
I am going to go through them with the correct commissioner identified by name. And so
Okay.
it's Village, Codo, D36, RAP, New Trier, Codo, Caucus, RAP. So far it's a two-person team. Winnetka Parks Foundation, Hemmings and Tyson, NSSRA Root, and Stormwater, James, Warren James, and James Hemmings. Okay? And then we have negotiating teams also. We can go through those if you want.
Yes, would you?
Yeah, village negotiating team is Codo and Lesson. Schools negotiating team is still Rapp and James. And stormwater negotiating team is James and Hemmings. James and James. Stormwater negotiating team. Yeah, okay, sorry, yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Any other liaison reports?
I can give the one on the caucus.
Please.
They are anticipating completing the survey so that it goes out just after Labor Day for 2 weeks. They're anticipating analyzing in October and also developing the platforms with a goal to have the fall town hall in the first half of November.
you. New Trier, I don't have a report, they go back to school on Monday. They've already started crew tryouts and tryouts for a lot of the sports teams on August 9th. So, drive slowly.
Can I just add to that?
Yes.
They had coverage that on Saturday, September 9th, that there is an open house for their new gym.
I did see that,
So
thank you very much.
So I
Yes.
think people might keep their mind.
Yes.
Interested to see that.
Yes, they are giving a presentation and a tour, I believe it's around 2 o'clock in the
I think
afternoon.
2 to 4.
Yeah, that's definitely worth seeing. It's a lot of taxpayer money.
Yes, there was an article in the record.
Thank you very much. You've done D36? Have you
I don't
done-
have- they haven't had a
Yeah,
meeting
Yeah,
since,
they don't have any meetings, yeah. Caucus, you've done Winnetka Parks Foundation.
So the Winnetka Parks Foundation meeting occurred last night in this room. It was attended by James, myself, John, Jim, and Kyle. Some of the topics we talked about, Jim went over the current financials and the recent audit performed by Lauterbach and Amon. Am I saying it correctly? The board discussed upcoming events, including the second annual Ladies Tennis Round Robin fundraiser, which is occurring in October. Kyle provided an overview of One Camp, which was a successful 5-day camp, including students from the Perspectives Charter School in Chicago.
In Chicago.
Local Winnetka campers and student leaders from New Trier High School. I'll also talk about opportunities for 2024, repeat of some successful fundraisers that happened this year, including the Beach Bash, as well as another possibility of another kickball tournament. And the Parks Foundation is, the board is in need of additional board members. So we talked about some possibilities there. James, you have anything to add?
No, I would just put out that the ladies round robin is October 20th. There's only 32 slots available, and I know quite a number of them are taken up, so if anybody listening has interest in participating, it looks like a great event. So see the Park Foundation's website to sign up.
Great, thank you, go ahead.
Just a question, because I know that a few years ago, the Parks Foundation had redone their bylaws to require a substantial gift to join the foundation board. Is that still in effect, or like what kind of people are they looking for? Is that?
It still is in effect.
Okay.
It can be either a donation, in a cash form or a company matching form, or in-kind donations. So
Okay.
we have a smattering of how the current directors achieve that.
Colleen, NSSRA, no report?
No report.
Excellent. Stormwater, James and Tony, no report?
No report.
Excellent, okay, fine, thank you. We are moving on to the second section of remarks from visitors. Your opportunity to address the board. When called upon, please come to the center section in front of the commissioners, stand on the X. Come to the podium, speak into the microphone, state your name for the record. Keep all comments under 3 minutes to the extent possible. Not a question and answer, so please don't expect a response. If you prefer to share your comments in writing, you may use the comment cards which are available near the sign-in sheets. Any Park District staff will accept your card to be shared with the board. Do we have anyone who wishes to speak? Mary Harrison.
May after that long speech, I want to be able to come home at work. I just would encourage you to look again at the subject that I spoke about at Pearl Island Playground. You cannot predict the future. You know, we can laugh about schools going out of business or Winnetka failing or whatever, but things do happen. So when the school district owned the property at Corwin Park, they were planning on a 4th school. And then they decided they didn't need a 4th school, so they had the land, and so they sold it to the Park District. It just seems to me that since you are the ones that are really in charge of open space in this community, that you just need to keep that under the community, under the Park District's purview. It's just not, nothing's affecting the school at all. It doesn't change one thing over there in the park, in the playground. So I would encourage you to at least give that consideration. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Susie? You're only missing.
I would concur.
Joanna?
What they said.
Excellent, okay, thank you very much. Okay, we have one item for consideration after closed, but that's the only item, and it's a set of minutes from closed. Otherwise, we will, may have a motion to go into closed session pursuant to 5 ILCS 120, Section 2C1, for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body. 5 ILCS 120, Section 2C5, for the purchase or lease of property. 5 ILCS 120, 2C6, for the setting of a price for sale or lease of property, and 5 ILCS 120, 2C11, for litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent.
So moved.
Thank you. A
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? We have a roll call vote to go into close.
Oh, sorry, wait.
Sir, wait.
You want to talk about closed session minutes, right? You
Pardon?
want to talk about closed session minutes too, right?
It was just one
Oh,
clarification.
so you had after that, 2C21.
Say it again. Oh,
2C21.
2C21. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll amend the motion to include 2C21.
Thank you very much. So amended. Seconded. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Cummings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Coto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
As amended.
As amended.
Okay, so at 8:19, we will be exiting open session. We are now back in the regular meeting at 9:28. We have one item to consider. It is the approval of item number 7.2, approval of the closed session meeting minutes of July 20th, 2023 as amended. May I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call? This has to be a roll call.
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Proto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Excellent. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 9:28.
Congratulations.
Get there.
Way to
Get
go.
there.
That was great.